subconscious and your mental mind. And this is one of the biggest things that I have learned thus far in my journey of just learning inner work. And the craziest part about this is I didn't even realize this until I had a moment recently without my phone for a while. And I realized I kind of just started putting one and two together. And that is how I came upon this whole thought about the difference between your subconscious and your mental mind. I, of course, have a few notes here, like I always do. Just going to go through all the things that were really sitting on my heart to talk about, and then explaining how you actually know what part is your subconscious mind and which part is your mental mind and why it even matters. So the first thing I wanted to say is you can't get to a new place without being in a different place. So if you are at point A in your life, thinking like you're at point A, whatever you thought thus far in your life has got you to this point A. So if you've been thinking a certain way to get to point A, you've been acting a certain way to be at point A, you're operating in a certain way at point A, doing these same things you are doing at point A is never going to get you to point B, C, D, E, F, or G. Okay? You have to do something different. And I heard that so much on social media from the gurus. And I also want to write that down too. I heard that so much from, the gurus online, because you would hear, you can't get to the same place from where you are. But I didn't understand it really deeply until right now. So let me just tuck this behind my ear because clearly it wants to be behind my ear. So what I mean by that is your subconscious mind is completely different from the thoughts you have on a day-to-day basis, like the voices you hear in your head, that audience that you always hear in your head, those people or yourself or whoever is talking up here is not always your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is literally the automated system. So think about you want to go spend money, right? Your mental mind would be like going to get some cash, counting out the cash, taking the cash to the store. Let's say you go to Target to buy a purse and handing the money over to the cashier. The cashier counts it and she's like, okay, this is $15.26. Here is your purse, right? It's very physical. It's very, it takes a lot of work. It's a lot of visible work is what I mean. So the subconscious in this conversation would be like the credit card. You walk into the store, you're like, oh my God, I love this bag. You're interacting with all the different colors, all the different styles. And then you're like, I actually really, really love this. I am going to get this purse. And then, so you go ahead and you pick up the purse and then you walk over to the cashier, you swipe the card, and then you go about your business. The time you spent in the store was more so for the enjoyment of shopping for the purse, seeing the styles you wanted, seeing what they had in stock. Whereas when you went with the cash, you were looking for a purse that was the amount of money that you had in cash. Like if you didn't have a credit card, you would have to only spend what's in cash. So you have to stick to a certain realm of money that you took with you to the store. So it's so much more automated than your mental mind. These mental decisions you make all day, the decisions that you make all day, literally don't really make quite a difference. The decisions that you're making all day, like you think, like you wait, like it's insane. You wake up in the morning and you think, I should go to the gym, but I actually should probably go and start working on this thing I want to work on. But then I wanted to go eat breakfast. And when you wake up in the morning, that's the first thing that happens. You start to like jot things down. You start to mentally compile a to-do list of things that you want to do during the day. And what actually happens is that is your mental mind. None of those decisions actually make a difference because your subconscious mind is going to automate whatever it's going to automate anyways. So when you wake up in the morning or you're going through your day and you're making decisions, you are making decisions thinking you're in control of what's going on in your day, when really you're not in control of it. Your programming is in control of it. Your subconscious mind is what people call a programming. And when I say programming, I literally mean like the software that runs in the background, regardless of like what's going on. So when you're working on your computer, regardless if you're on your computer or not, there's always a software running, as long as it's not dead, obviously, but or broken. But there's always a software running in the background, right? So that's the subconscious. The subconscious is literally the computer, the coding, the applications, right? And then the mental mind would be the apps and the websites and the softwares that you actually can see and interact with. But your subconscious mind is literally the computer. And you can't do anything on that computer. You can't click on any apps. You can't click on any websites unless you have already interacted with the software. There is no apps if there is no software. I think that's a really good way to put it. If you are working on a computer, you cannot work on a computer unless you have the computer, and the computer doesn't work without any software. You can't just open up the computer and then there's going to be things sitting there, because applications like apps and softwares and Microsoft and all these other things are made from the programming. They're made from the coding. So there is no interacting with a computer unless you have that coding to play with, right? So what I wanted to say is that also is the point that I wanted to make on top of this is you can't get to the next place you want to get to while working with that same place you are, because whatever subconscious beliefs that you've already had is what is getting you to where you got, like to where you are. So if you are working from that same place, you can't expect to get anywhere else. But the hardest thing that you can do, the way you can make it the most difficult for yourself is to focus on more than one thing at a time and expect to change those thoughts or mentality, your mental subconscious, whatever. The thing about that is let me get some water, please. When you are focused on more than one thing at a time, and I take my glasses off because when I get comments, it distracts me. And if I take my glasses off, I can't read them. So that's why I take my glasses off too. But I need to put them back on to read what I wrote on the page, right? So the next thing is realizing that your subconscious, you cannot outsmart your subconscious. That programming you have, it's not to be played with. It's like the thing that you must surrender to. So again, like I say, like when you wake up in the morning and you have all these thoughts, you're like, I should go to the gym. I should go book a hair appointment. I should start this business. I have a business. Let me go post on my business page. All those like human thoughts that you're putting into place are based off the programming you have. So it's not so much about the thoughts that you have and stopping negative thoughts or only having positive thoughts or switching the way that you think about things in your perspective. It's more about figuring what is the pattern behind the thoughts you're having, and then go figure out where is it subconsciously, because the subconscious is where everything's coming from. It's like if I have a cup of water and I keep putting dirty water in the cup, it's never going to turn to clean water. The cup is simply to hold the water, but it's up to me to make sure that the cup is functional, that it holds water. But it's up to me, if I want to drink water, to put a drinkable substance in the cup. So if I want to live a life that I want to live, it's up to me to, yes, I have the container, of this. I have the ability to have the subconscious mind, but whether I like it or not, I have the subconscious mind ready to be programmed with whatever I want it to hold. But it's up to me to understand what I'm seeing is directly related to the subconscious programming that I have. So also, your subconscious, like I said, your subconscious is smarter than you. and you cannot outsmart it again, like with the thoughts you have on a day-to-day basis, you are never ever going to be able to, or unless you have, then tell me, right? But the way that the subconscious mind works is you're never going to be able to rewire the actual programming with the thing that's produced by the programming. You cannot try to reframe your thoughts that are coming from your subconscious mind and think that that rewiring is actually going to change the subconscious mind. You have to go to the subconscious mind. You have to go to that source. You have to go to the programming and figure out what's going on in there. So when you are going through your subconscious thoughts and your beliefs, because it's not thoughts, like the beliefs that you have is what's creating the thoughts that you have on a day-to-day basis. So in your subconscious, if you've successfully rewired your subconscious to think, I love going to the gym, I love taking care of my body, I love having smoothies and this and that and blah 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 blah. That's been my favorite thing to say recently. Like when I need to like fill in the blanks, I'm like blah 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 blah. But when you have that subconscious programming, the thoughts you have in the morning are, what am I wearing to the gym? What time am I going to the gym? Oh my gosh, I had a meeting that came up. When can I reschedule to go to the gym? Okay, what am I going to eat for breakfast? Then when you do your groceries, you're like, oh my gosh, my groceries, I need to buy this type of vegetable and that type of vegetable. That is how life works, and that's how it unfolds when you focus on the subconscious programming instead of the thoughts that you're having as a result. So one thing I was doing a lot, and this goes back to that other point about focusing on people, is I would watch a lot of people on YouTube, and I realized the reason why you can watch these people for months and months and months and months and take all the notes, rewatch their videos, rewatch them, take more notes, and get no transformation and still live the same life, but you feel so good up here, but your reality is still the same. I mean, I think that for people who want that, that's fine. If you love the life that you live, like you love the life you live, but you're having a lot of struggles mentally, then watching mental based content is good for you. But for people that are good mentally and structured mentally, but what they're seeing is not what they want to be seeing in their reality, watching mental based manifestation inner work content is not going to help you. And when you get so stuck in that rat race, it's like another cycle of just like seeing a video because it has a good title, watching it, and then watching their other videos, and then taking notes and like doing it every single day, but getting no transformation. You have to wonder to yourself why. And you have to stop and say, I've watched, like go look at your watch time on YouTube and say, or just go count up what you watched today. At points in my life, I was watching 8 to 10, 12 hours of video a day on manifestation, inner work, business content, and still in the same place, making no sales, not growing my pages, not producing content, etc. So I had to realize, okay, I'm not a person that needs mental work. I'm not a person that needs mental content. I'm a person that needs subconscious rewiring, because I've done a lot of work. I think it's going to be like 3 years maybe since I started doing inner work, like real inner work. And it's got to the point where I was really doing it because of my mental space that I was in. And then once I got out of that mental space, you kind of rewire your subconscious to never go back to that same like you can't take steps that far backwards. Like you can get 10 steps ahead, but you're never going to go 10 steps back. You may go 10 steps ahead and then go 5 back or 4 back and have to rebuild yourself back up to where you really were strongest, but you're never going to have to go backwards. So I was like, I'm good mentally. Like I can get through things, I can process and navigate. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to be able to navigate situations, navigate relationships, navigate life. And I did that. But then I was not able to kind of go beyond that. And I was like, why are all these videos not working for me? And when you focus on watching these type of on these pieces of content that are giving you tips and tricks, and they're on the whiteboard. I'm not trying to call out people that use a whiteboard, because I literally used a whiteboard in my last shorts that I posted, my YouTube shorts. But you have to remember that if you're not a person that needs mental work and you feel really good in the mind and you don't feel confused in the mind, but your life isn't how you want it, you have to work on your subconscious. Mental work is not for you. And you have to focus on watching people that do subconscious work. Now, that's the problem, because I have mentors, but even mentors I've had in the past were focused on mental work. Like, they're like, here's a sheet of paper, write down the notes, take notes, watch this 30-minute video. Like, none of them are rewiring the actual programming. And I was very confused recently when I figured out that none of them were rewiring the subconscious. And I don't know why, right? And it's not my problem anymore, but finding people who are interested in rewiring the subconscious are people that really listen to Joe Dispenza and people like him and doctors like him, who realize you cannot outsmart the subconscious. You're not smarter than it. You can't undo your thoughts and rethink your day. Like, you're thinking about it. You can't get to a new place by thinking. If you could get to a new place by thinking, you would be in a better place already. Don't you understand that? Like, that's what I had to realize. If I could think myself into more money, think more positive thoughts into more clothes, having a bigger closet with luxury items, or designer items or whatever, it would pop up as soon as I thought about it. But it doesn't work that way, right? And also, what brought me to this belief is that belief about the subconscious mind being smarter than you is that when you are I forgot. I'll probably come back to it. But yeah. So there are layers to your subconscious. And yeah, there are layers to your subconscious. So when you're working with your subconscious mind, you are going to encounter a few things. You're going to be able to endure a situation, especially if you've done mental inner work. That's the problem. You do mental inner work, and so you've just been used to all this mental work, and then you do all this mental work, and then when you're doing the mental work, you're like, okay, great, this is awesome. Then you start to learn subconscious work, and you think it works the same way. You're like, okay, great, I thought new thoughts, I'm reprogramming, great. It's not as simple, because when you are doing mental work, as soon as you're able to act in a different way, react a different way, you're done. You've solved the problem. However, when you're working with your subconscious, you can act one way and on the under layers think a different way. And this is where it all just unfolds, because you can have, you as a person, 5 different situations in one day that all piss you off. And 3 out of the 5 you did really well with, but the other 2, you really let them rile you up. Okay, so what is your underlying subconscious belief? Because if your programming was that XYZ situations don't bother you, you wouldn't have had those 2 slip-ups that make you feel riled up. So on the outside, you can say, oh, I just need more mental work. I just need to practice it more. I just need to understand it more. And then you realize, okay, well, if I'm thinking about it, not on a mental plane, but on a subconscious plane, I would have never had that problem if I were to actually think that way subconsciously. Like, my programming is not going to just switch up for one situation and not the other. So that means that there's something wrong with the subconscious programming, not the actual situations. The situations are literally just showing you what you actually believe. And so that goes into the next part, is that how do you know which part is actually being which part, or what are your, like, how do you figure out what are your actual beliefs? How do you figure out what's your actual subconscious programming? You look at your reality. You look at your reality. You don't look at situations for situation. You don't look at this person as a singular situation and this person as a singular situation, or your job or your business or whatever as singular situations. You look at your entire reality, and that is how you figure out what's the actual programming that you have. Because when you're able to do the mental work, like I said, you're able to do the mental work, you're able to be happy in these three situations that could have went bad, but then you also have these two situations that really, really mess you up. That wouldn't be the case if you had thought a different way subconsciously. So essentially what happens there is you're convincing yourself that in certain situations, or you persuaded yourself in through mental work, that in these certain situations you're not bothered. But you haven't done the subconscious work to really rewire the programming as a whole, so that when in all 5 of these situations you are okay. So you have to look at your actual reality. You have to look at what's actually going on. How are all your relationships on average? Look at the average, right? If I look at your habits, well, if you look at your habits on average with eating, on average with friendships, on the average relationship with your parents, or the average conversation with your parents, the average money that you make, the average experiences you have in a day, your average like personality during the day around certain people or around your friends or at work or whatever, you will see what your actual subconscious beliefs are. And so that's where the mental work comes out of it, is you stop thinking, oh, this person is just mean because this person is just this person. My job is this because my boss is that. My coworker is this because my coworker is just like that. And you start to group everything together. You start to see everything as one. You start to see everything as intertwined together. And that's where you stop pointing fingers individually and start to see what's the actual programming. Because if your computer isn't working, it may just be that Twitter is down. It may just be that Instagram is down, but it's most likely that the Wi-Fi is messed up. If you keep refreshing the page and there's nothing showing, you might want to go check the actual network and not check each app itself. You might want to check, like if the computer completely turns black, you can say, oh, the computer's broken, oh well, or you can check if it's charged, right? If you are working on an assignment on Microsoft and Microsoft Word and it starts to just like go in a frenzy, you can refresh the page, or you can just restart the application, close out, and open it back up. There's like, you see what I mean? Like even with just a computer as an analogy, you can do it in so many different ways to figure out what's actually going on. But you're never going to solve a problem by solving it mentally in your real life. So it's better to look at things as a whole. What's relative? What's the average of what's actually going on? So the other thing is, I had to figure out how to enjoy content without worrying that I was going against my subconscious, because I'm doing my subconscious reprogramming. But if I'm watching, I already love these YouTubers, so I want to watch their videos. I want to see like what they're posting. But I know that it's mental work. I know that it does not address subconscious. I know that if I keep watching it, I'm going to be working against my subconscious. And so I have to be very disciplined with the next 30 days with saying, this is important to me. I did this 2 years ago. And what I did 2 years ago was I said, I am in a really bad place right now. Maybe 3 years ago. Probably like 3 years ago. I was in a really bad space. And I said, I don't care how long it takes. I'm going to get to the point of the mental point that I want to get to. So that's where I am right now. Again, 2 years or 3 years, I don't even know how many years later. I'm like, I don't care how long it takes. I am going to figure out how my body wants to rewire the subconscious programming. But the way that I still enjoy the content is I watch it with the, of course, with the initial mindset that I know that this content is mental, so I'm not taking it as subconscious. So I'm able to create that barrier, but also realize that they're working. I understand that they're doing their job, and also realizing that every time you watch someone else's video, they're getting paid for your views. They're getting paid when you shop with them. You're helping build their business. Just like when you go to work and you go put your 40 hours in a week or 8 hours a day or 12-hour shifts, whatever. You're building someone else's business. It's the same way when you get on, like I see people complain a lot that, oh, I'm going to work building somebody else's business, blah 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 blah, but they'll happily go scroll on their phone. Do you know you watch probably 10,000 TikToks every few days or every week? Probably 40,000 TikToks a week, and you wouldn't believe me unless you go look. Go look in your TikTok and count how many videos you watched, and you can put whatever time frame you want on it. It's going to be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of videos. So that means you've been paying people attention, and they get paid because of your views. So even though it just looks like, oh, I'm scrolling, right? So are 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 4 million other people. So you are helping build somebody else's platform, build somebody else's dream by consuming the content. So if you're going to have that aspect and that belief about work, that's the same thing about subconscious, right? You'd say, oh, well, I want to build my own business because I'm like mentally, the mental part is, I want to go build my own business because I don't want to work for anybody else, blah, blah, blah. But then when you go on social media, you have absolutely no problem with scrolling all day, liking, commenting, sharing, spending all day doing your own thing on people's pages. The subconscious underlying is not aligning with your reality, because in reality, you're doing the same thing in both places. You're building both of these people's business and platforms and personal brands. You're helping move them closer to the finish line, move them closer to their financial goal, closer to their success, because they're putting themselves out there, but you're not doing it in the same way that they are. Because most successful people do not scroll on the internet, doom scroll, because one, they don't have the time. Two, they have other means of enjoyment. And three, they're producing, not consuming content. So every time you watch somebody else make a video, you are making them money, which is fine. Obviously, if you want to make other people money, right? It's like the law of reciprocity. When you make other people money, you also are owed now how much ever they made. But again, you're paying them by views. So if you're paying them cents on the dollar, how much are you getting back from that? You're not investing a lot to help these other people. So you're not going to receive a lot. If you are focused on if your underlying subconscious thoughts are, or your underlying subconscious beliefs, are that you abide by the law, you adhere to the law of reciprocity, you probably wouldn't be scrolling, because that doesn't justify the law of reciprocity, because it's not a real true investment. You're doing it for your own sake to entertain yourself. So another thing is, when you're trying to figure out what else you can do with your day, is figure out what other ways you can be producing. So of course, you can gym, cooking, cleaning, like doing subconscious work, but also producing content. Produce. When you are trying to rewire your subconscious and try to take yourself away from all this mental work, you pick one mentor, pick one person who you want to still keep intact with. I keep intact with my mentor, my coach. I watch all of her videos. That's the only person I'm allowed to watch right now. The only person I'm allowing myself to watch is this one person, and I'm only allowed to do her coaching, her programs, only allowed, right? And if I have nothing else to do, I produce content. So that's what I have established as the route, the beginning route to rewiring your subconscious. And the last thing I wanted to say, probably not the last thing, but I wanted to say, where are your patterns? Because there are good patterns and bad patterns. there are good patterns and there are bad patterns. So the good patterns, maybe you have really great conversations, you don't burn bridges anymore, you feel really good on the inside all the time. People ask you about relationship tips and tricks because you're just so great at relationships. But you also may have patterns that, on the flip side of whatever that good thing is, you have something that's not a good pattern that you don't want to keep. So let's just say for the friendship thing, right? You have really great conversations with your friends and you love them. But on the flip side of that, when you have moments of them sharing their wins or their happy moments or their milestones that you wish you were hitting, you get really jealous or envious. Now, what does that mean for when you're looking at your subconscious programming? Would you just say, no, like on average, I have really great conversations? Yes, on average, you have really great conversations, right? But on average, when you're having a conversation about milestones or success, you have a problem. So it's not just relationships. Like I want to really, really dig into that and really explain that in general. It's not that you are looking at your friendships on average, right? I really want to specify you are looking at specific interactions within that thing. So in friendships, how are your average friendships with guys, average friendships with girls, average friendships with your parents, conversations with the average conversation with your, I think I said that one already, average conversation with your parents or your step parents, average conversations with your siblings. What is the average like interaction with your coworker? What is the average interaction when someone tells you good news? What is the average interaction when you get criticism? Like those are where your patterns really lie, and that's where they lie, and that's where they're really deep rooted. So you can figure out what those are, and this is not work again. Like the mental work is watching a video, taking notes on the video. Oh my God, such a great video. Loved your video. Thanks for putting so much work into the video. We love you. Thanks. And then going about your business and living the same life while you're watching someone make 20, 30, 40K off a YouTube channel that you're consistently watching because they got you wrapped into doing mental work. So the subconscious is really where it lies. And I truly believe only people who are working on their subconscious would even be interacting with this video. Only people who care about their subconscious would truly interact with this video. So that's it for the video. Recognize your patterns, recognize where they're coming from, figure out who you want to focus on, what beliefs you want to focus on, who is a good example of the beliefs that you want to have and the subconscious that you want to work through. Identify the layers in your subconscious and the face value versus what you actually are experiencing on average within the categories of each part of your life. And yeah,